Welcome, and to you who are attending. So let me start by introducing you, our guests, and then I'll give everyone the spiel of what we're doing today. But welcome, Jessie Flower, the voice of Toph in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Jack Sena, the voice of Sokka in Avatar. Welcome. We're so excited to have you today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here wherever everybody is.
Thank you for having me in my closet.
Yeah.
Yes. So welcome to everyone attending. This is the Midessanime virtual experience, and Midessanime is the premier anime convention in West Texas. So you should follow Midessanime on social media and at midessanime.com so that you can stay up to date on the rest of today's virtual experiences and also on their actual convention that will be in person next year. And I'm Elise Baughman. I'm the voice of Pan on Dragon Ball GT, and I voice some other characters. And I'm also the host of Anime Adventures, which is a show where I bring you interviews and panels with anime voice actors and others when I'm at live conventions and virtual conventions like this one. And let's get straight to it. Let's talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender. I mean, what a great show, and how amazing is it that it was 15 years ago in the making, and then here we are, it's back. I mean, what has that experience, did you ever imagine that it would be back? Jessie, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Definitely was not expecting it to be back the same way. However, I do know that there had been a lot of just tremors of when it was on Netflix briefly and then left Netflix, everybody was like, we want it back, we want it back. So I was like, if it finally comes back to Netflix, I think something's going to happen. It also just happened to be fortuitous that it kind of occurred when everybody was stuck at home. So there was like no excuse for people to not watch it if they hadn't watched it yet. So we had a huge wave of new fans, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's been really cool. I think it was a perfect moment for people to revisit a show they already loved, and there was a great appetite to watch something new and specifically for something very bingeable, which this show is. So it was very cool to see that it's found such a new audience in this time. And I'm hearing from plenty of people who are introducing it to kids or siblings so that it's finding some of that same age audience, and the people who were that age watching it then, who grew up with it, are revisiting it now, and people who were much older watching it then. It's just it's hitting across generations at a really cool time.
That's so cool. I know it's almost a silver lining that it happened when it did, because of course we don't want to be stuck in the pandemic, but what a great opportunity to binge watch.
I think it's worth it for Avatar.
Yes.
And I want to start off, Jessie, we know that your real name is not Jessie, it's Michaela.
Yes.
Do you want to tell that story, how you became known as Jessie Flower?
Yes, gladly. So I think many of us go through, and especially in this community, we have lots of different sides, lots of different identities in different atmospheres. And when I was younger, I really just did not like my name. A lot of people mispronounced it. I thought it was kind of long. It's, 3 syllable, spoken. I was just like, it's long and it's not cute. And people kept saying Michaela, Michaela, and Michaela, or people just call me Michael. So anyway, the 5-year-old me was having a little existential crisis. So I just thought Jessica was the coolest name ever. I don't know why, but I did. And then I was like, you know what's even cooler? Jessie. It's a short version of Jessica. So yeah, 6-year-old me then at that point, my mom's like, what name do you want to put on your headshot? And I was like, oh, Jessie. And she's like, okay, you need a last name. I was like, Jessie Murphy. That's not quite cute. I don't know. I apparently went to the backyard and thought about it for a while. And then I came back and I was like, okay, Flower, Jessie Flower. And my mom's like, okay, this is going to be printed on hundreds of pieces of paper and possibly in credits. You're 100% sure you want Jessie Flower? And I was like, yeah. And then here we are. So it went from of course, this is a great name, to then, I'm getting older and then I'm in high school and then I'm like, wow, this is still my name. So
and then when did you officially switch to Michaela?
Officially in college. I believe I think it was junior year, maybe around 21 is when I officially sent information to like the union and was like, okay, I'm like changing it in the system to Michaela Jill Murphy. Like the IMDb pages finally like merged in the last couple years. Like now if you Google one, you find the other. Yeah, so like you got we're making progress. So yes.
Way to SEO. So you were using it professionally and personally?
Kind of. I mean, at school, I was homeschooled for a little while, so there wasn't too much like personal use, especially during like probably the height of like voice acting stuff. Because I went back to school in 6th grade, but then for 3.5-ish years there, I was just kind of rolling solo. So there wasn't like, you know, maybe a neighbor or two would say my name every now and then, but like, you know, it wasn't too.
But family, you were Michaela.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they knew how to say my name right. So
there you
then
go.
I stayed Michaela.
So should we call you Jessie since everybody knows you as Jessie for?
Well, that's typically what I sign as, because I was Jessie
Okay.
when I recorded this. I was, you know, Jessie on the credits. So anytime I'm like at a con or when I'm signing things, I'm like, I'm going to sign as Jessie because that's, you know.
That's who, people know you
was at the time. So yeah, I still go with Jessie whenever, especially when I'm talking about Avatar stuff.
Okay, I love that.
Just so you know, the space in my last name was also a like, okay, registering for SAG, because like some people in my family have the last name space and some don't, and so we were like, what are we writing it down as?
Even in your family?
Within my family, like
Really?
one of my aunts was like, no, come on, and my grandmother was like, yeah, I think so, but like the Sena side of the family that it comes from, we were less in contact with, so we didn't know. So I just got to decide, and I was like, well, friggin' De Niro's got the space.
So there you go.
It works for De Niro. I know. I noticed that because when I looked you up online, sometimes they had you with a space and sometimes without.
Yeah, that I think is just
life.
Error, because like I've been using the space like since I started acting, so I think that's just but like I don't think my dad signing things like on legal documents, I don't think he's got the space.
But you have the space.
I have the space, and I think my driver's license has the space. So.
For a while, I was really confused. I didn't know if Beifong was 2 or 1 word. Like at the beginning, I was like, Toph Beifong. Is it Toph Beifong or is it Beifong? I don't know. I didn't know if it was separate or not. So I had to do some sleuthing because there's never really a point when it's like shown that often, right?
You have to like go back to the scripts.
Yeah. So it's 1. It's 1.
Okay.
There are a couple of signatures that I did where it was 2, and I was like,
whoa, those are rare premium items.
Be worth so much. So let's talk about, speaking of Toph, let's talk about Toph. Like, what a great character. And I know you had a character in season 1, but you went back to audition for for Toph. And weren't you at your grandmother's house or something when you auditioned for Toph?
Yes, it's fine. The story is making its way around.
Yes.
People know. People know. So yes, I did voice Mang in season 1, which actually, we were talking about this on the live stream. When Toph first comes into the series, there's a bit of tension between her and Aang. And so that some people thought there might be some sort of love interest because he, you know, takes her out of her element for a second, and then they're bickering at dinner, and there's all this stuff. And so if you tie it kind of back to Mang, who had a huge crush on Aang, it's kind of funny because it's like, oh wait, maybe I just came back because I didn't get
you didn't
get my shot. Yeah, so I had to come back as somebody else. But yes, it was quite fun. I got the audition request. It must have been a couple days before, you know, we had to send it in, and we were stuck in southern Indiana. So it was like, okay, we didn't have these, you know, to hop in a closet and send a voice sample. Or I think people having personal microphones has really gotten more popular over the past few years.
Yes.
It wasn't really the same situation, you know, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years ago. So we had to drive to a music studio. They had a recording booth like in the back, and we just used their studio, recorded it for like, you know, 20 minutes. And then I think they must have emailed it from there. And it's a bummer because people are like, oh, do you have that file? Because now, you know, you save MP3s and you keep some of them, and you can find the email that you sent, and it's just gone into the ether. We don't have that. So it's a bummer because I'm like, that would be fun to listen to. Because yes, I was with my grandparents, and she actually voiced the boulder for the audition because she was like, who's supposed to say these other parts? And I was like, well, nobody. And she's like, well, why don't I say them? I'm like, okay.
Of course you should.
Obviously.
And Jack, what about you?
The way better scenario there is that they listen to that tape and they're like, all right, yeah, whatever, this Jessie girl, I remember her fine. This grandma needs to play the boulder.
Oh man.
I auditioned just like regular, just I at that time, all of my VO audition, I didn't have a mic until the pandemic started. Is what I was like, I need like an actual, I had a mic, but I didn't have like a good home setup until a couple months ago when it was like, okay, I have a show that's recording now that like wouldn't have been able to, like, that, production was stopping, so we had to figure out a way to record it from home and all of that stuff. But at the time I was just all my VO auditions were just at my agent's office, just like they had my agent Melissa Berger Brennan, who's fantastic, and shepherded me through the beginning of all of that. Just brought me into the booth and we recorded it. I was on a live action Nickelodeon show at the time. So I think like Nickelodeon was like down to bring me in for stuff, but just got super lucky. Just completely, just a very regular audition. I didn't have any of my grandmas to read with me, so I'm sure the tape was very dry. Yeah,
you're lucky you booked it anyway without your grandmother.
I know.
I mean,
it's
amazing.
She was my lucky charm. She was.
Well, let's talk about, because what's unique for you guys is that you got to record with some other people in the studio. And, I talk to anime actors so often and I am one, but we're so often just in the booth by ourselves. But a lot of times it was you with several other people. On average, how many actors did you have recording in the studio at one time?
It was a mix. It would vary a bit. I pretty much, every session from the beginning, I was in with May. That was very consistent. May Whitman, who played Katara. We pretty much always got to be in the room and read together. I did not once record with Zach, who played Aang.
None of us did that.
None of us ever. Really? He was Connecticut based, so he was recording. So we met him at like premiere type of events, but never got to record with him. So it was always May. D. Bradley Baker, who voiced Appa and Momo, was usually in there with us pretty often. Dante, who played Zuko, was in there, and then starting season 2, Jessie joined, and that was sort of like, so Dante would frequently be in with us, even though he didn't have necessarily scenes with us much in season 1, but he would be in there, and they'd stagger in him and Mako, and we'd rotate through, and then but then for a while it was like me, May, Jessie, Dante would record all together.
Yeah, anywhere from 1 to 4 of us, depending on scheduling. Sometimes like things were different, and sometimes it'd be just me alone for something, because sometimes I'd only have like 2 lines or something, so I'd be by myself. But just depending.
And then occasionally they'd have one where the room was full, and a bunch of the guest cast for the episode would be in there. The 1 or 2 rare occasions got to work with Mark Hamill. Very cool.
That's pretty cool.
He's incredible. But D. Bradley Baker to me was always I was always very excited when we were recording with him to just get to sit back and watch, because he like created all the animal sounds on the show. So Appa, Momo, but anytime another just like
turtle,
moose, turtle, whatever would pop up, it would just be D go, okay, and then like busted that out, and that was like one of the real treats of like that show, was getting to watch him work. He's just truly incredible and the nicest man.
Oh, really?
In the world.
Very kind.
See, I can only imagine, because I've seen video of him just doing the characters or doing the animal, and you're like, wow, it's mind-blowing. Yeah.
It's one of those like, he's putting in a lot of work before he gets in the booth to figure it out, because it's so specific and physical. Yeah, that you'll see. He couldn't have just initially had the idea the way he's like, pulling parts of his face to get like different resonance to create the different sounds for these animals. And it's like very involved and physical, but so quick and easy. And he'll just do it. And it's just like, oh, it sounds perfect. Cool. Great job.
Is it that type of thing where he makes it look so easy, but he's worked on it ahead of time?
Yeah, exactly.
come
Because
in
as
and
he's doing it, I'm sitting in the corner going,
Yeah. Oh.
yeah.
I know when you watch him on video, and guys who are watching today, you'll have to look it up. You watch him on video, and then I found myself one time I was walking outside and I was, trying to make all the noises, which I can't. So that had to be amazing to sit there in person and watch that happen. So
I had him try to coach me at one point.
Oh, really?
I feel like I got a little bit of a Momo for a while, and it's gone now.
Oh. It'll come back. It could come back.
Again.
I don't know. You were already doing a pretty good job. I liked it.
I don't have it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, I already see some questions coming in. Let's see. We have one from Brian. If you could voice a different avatar character and it just went up. Oh, for an episode, who would you pick? So Brian McQuaid, do you have one that you would pick? Ooh.
I'm going to answer this 2 ways.
Okay.
One is if I get to have their voice while I do it. If I get to have their voice, then either D or maybe like Ko, the face stealer, voiced by Eric Todd Dellums, who just has like the coolest. But assuming it's not that, and it's just me speaking, and I don't get to suddenly have an incredibly awesome masculine deep voice. Maybe Jet. I could do it. I would have fun being like a real, like a smarmy, cool terrorist, basically. That'd be fun.
What about you, Jessie?
I've actually I've already been told in a couple instances, and I don't know if this is just because I've gotten older and possibly slightly more feminine sounding, but I think I could pull off Azula. Not as well as Gray, unfortunately, because she just has this sharp, as soon as she starts talking, it like pierces your soul.
Yeah.
But there have been a couple of moments when I've been particularly either like high strung or like a little angry, especially with like my boyfriend when we're rewatching. He's like, I feel like I just heard some Azula. And I was like, it's very yeah, that could happen. So I think it'd be fun to voice her in a few scenes.
That's awesome. And here's one for Jessie. It says, you play Toph, who is such a strong and amazing character. In your own life, is there a principle of hers that you carry on to your real life?
We talked about this last night too.
Oh, did you?
Yes, we do a Twitch live stream every Friday. Dante hosts it, and we fundraise for COVID relief, and it's
really
great. Yeah, it's super fun.
Okay.
But we covered a lot of ground yesterday because Toph. It was the Blind Bandit episode, so we talked a lot about Toph. But when I think just her softer moments, especially in Tales of Ba Sing Se, where after girls kind of bully her, and Katara's like, don't listen to those girls, whatever. And Toph is like, I don't care about how I look. I know who I am. I think that's just such an important thing to remember, which you clearly watch her struggle with. And she's had her moments where she does care. She's like, I don't know how people view me, how they feel about me. I mean, I can kind of sense their reaction, but it's different. You don't know how you're perceived, and that can cause some nerves. And I think it's just a good reminder to like return to just who you are, your morals, your like ethics code, and just how you act as a person. That's kind of the biggest thing. So it's a great reminder. And I think despite all of the craziness of the show, that's probably my favorite moment that like sticks with me the most, just from her.
That's so great. And that was from Karen, who is very active on Anime Adventure. So thank you, Karen.
Hey.
Yay. And here's another great one. What was your favorite part of being Sokka and Toph? So do you want to start with that one, Jack? Like, what was your favorite part of playing this character?
I mean, I always had a lot of fun playing some of the broader, sillier moments. It was a very fun experience in the booth to kind of like let it rip, and they'd let me play around a bit. I'd say overall, my favorite part was the very pleasant surprise unfolding over time on that show of just how much depth and how much they were down to explore like a deep character arc with this character that I did not necessarily expect at the beginning of the show. He's like, pretty immediately started as like fun sidekick brother comedy character. And there were clear hints early that they would get at some other stuff with him, but I don't think I could have reasonably predicted, even in season 1, all of the Siege of the North and getting him into this like, you know, well told deep love story that had unexpected tragedy that I was not thinking when we started making this Nickelodeon show. I just didn't expect. For me at the time, it was shocking already that the extent to which that show was serialized. Like Nickelodeon was not making a lot of stuff that was serialized. And so this long arc story, figuring out that that's what we were doing was already very exciting. And then seeing them build so much into Sokka in particular, and then the Swordmaster arc in season 3, like there's just some, they really, all the stuff with his dad, I just did not expect that that's what I was like, the treats that I was going to be given as an actor each time I opened those scripts were just a lovely joy. And then just getting to yell a bunch of nonsense was also very fun. I did a lot of that too.
What about you, Jessie?
Yeah, I definitely think that coming in season 2 is coming in not in the first season for anybody is always interesting, because you're like, oh, is this character staying? Are they leaving? How important are they? What's their effect on the group? Is this going to be a good thing, bad thing, indifferent? So it's nice because it seems to have been well received. People are like, oh, like now the show is actually starting, and I'm like, oh, yay, I'll take it. It's a compliment. So it's great being a kind of later character to enter the narrative, but then being so quickly accepted by the characters themselves, yes, but also just by the viewers. I think it's kind of like, oh yeah, cool, she's part of the team now. And there's not this, well, these people were actually here first. And so there wasn't any of that like happening. And I think they addressed that. I think Mike and Brian were smart with that though, because they have conflict at the beginning, just like any group or two people who then are around each other all the time. We had to like get used to each other. And Katara and I did not for a while, and it just took a second. So I think it was really fun just playing a new addition that ended up working so seamlessly. Also, I mean, on top of the fact that she's just like a badass chick who does all of this incredible bending that it was necessary for their survival and success. So, you know, that part's fun too. That's plus, for sure.
That really is quite an accomplishment of you and of the writers to, like, I do think everyone remembers Toph as part of the core group. Like that's not like a questioned element. That's just like, who is the main, like the fearsome foursome? Toph's in there. And that really like, there's a season and a little bit more before that happens, and you don't think of it as like, well, that's the original, and then they added this other one. It's just like, no, I bet there are people who on the rewatch forget that Toph's not, like, are waiting for like, where's Toph?
Like, wait, where's Toph?
She's not there the whole first season.
Yeah. It's a while. A lot happens before I get there. I have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, we got a whole book.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Because I see more questions. There's one right here. Rachel, were there any unscripted recordings that made it into the show? It sounds like
no. I'm sure there were definitely little ad libs here and there that I'm sure stuff got in that was not originally scripted. They would definitely like let us play with stuff, but I certainly do not recall specifics. I know I could point to times where, you know, there are certain types of scenes that, like, if Sokka was like grumbling a lot or like ranting about something, they would definitely let me try a couple and let me kind of say other stuff. But I cannot go back and go like what was the original scripted versus what. I don't recall that. You know, like I know we tried some improv stuff during like tripping in on the desert on cactus juice, but I bet that was still I think that was still the scripted lines though. I know like we played with it, but I doubt I don't know. I know that I was given some leeway to improvise, but I don't remember what was used.
Yeah. It's probably hard to remember too.
15 years ago, 16 years ago.
It's crazy. That's weird to think about.
I was 16 when we made the pilot.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was a long time ago. Let's see. Ooh, I don't know this username, but guys, have you read the Avatar comic books?
I have The Rift and The Promise, and I believe those are the only two that I have in my possession. I think I've flipped through maybe one or two, and now I'm kind of lost as to what the order is, and apparently there's a new one. And which one is that?
This is The Search.
Okay, there you
This
go.
was like the immediately after one about
Okay.
Zuko trying to find his mother.
Okay, cool. So yes, I read a couple,
Can't
but
believe I happen
have
to have that right here. Found
to
that
read.
so
Yeah,
easily.
well done. You're yes, yeah. You're surrounded.
I'm
It's
in
like
a closet. I'm in my closet. So here's my stuff.
So yes, that's from that's my thing with the comic books. I have yet to read all of them because I know there are more.
Yes.
Same. A lot of it was we've read pieces of them sometimes at panels such as this.
Yes.
So that was how I got introduced to a lot of them, and I keep going like, oh, that's very cool. That's very cool. I should read more of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's just a Kyoshi book just came out.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And a Toph book as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great. We love to see it.
Well, I do want to talk about, before we end and have more fan questions, you both are like jack of all trades and do so many different other things. So Jessie, we'll start with you because you graduated from Yale, you have done modeling, acting, theater, you've been doing so many other things, of course, until the world shut down a little bit. So have you enjoyed just doing a little bit of everything? And then if you also want to kind of segue into what you're doing now that we're in this time of pandemic, I'd kind of love to hear what you've been doing, because I know people mainly think of you as a voice actor who are at least here at the panel, but I'd love to hear more.
Yes, it's been fun. Moving to New York after college was a whirlwind, but you know, New York is a place where you can like walk out the front door as a different person every day and do something totally different, and there's space for that. So that's why I went there anyway. And it's been great fun. Definitely dipping into like as many pools as possible. Yeah, recently I've kind of narrowed it down, though it might not be as narrowed to everybody else. But yes, I've been trying to focus on like 5 things as opposed to like 20.
Incredibly
okay.
So you know, focused.
Just like, we're getting there. Well, because everybody's like, you know, pick one thing and get really good at it. And I'm like, listen, I'm not it. When I wanted to be a doctor, yes, that makes sense. But as a creative, I don't just don't think that's very realistic.
Yeah. Pick 5 and get okay at them. That's plenty.
There you go. So yes, we still have voice acting and performance is at the helm. So I love singing.
I heard a song that you had on your website. If you guys have not heard her sing, she is fantastic. And is it MichaelaJillMurphy.com? Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, okay. I have the .com. It's my whole name.
Yes, go hear her sing.
It's up. So I love to sing, and I've been songwriting more actively. I don't know who here possibly relates, but a lot of stuff earlier on just didn't happen because I was just nervous. I didn't want to perform something that was not on stage, on film, in a booth, whatever. If it wasn't going to be received like the way I wanted it to be received, then there's no way for that to be controlled. Like people are either going to like it, or they're not going to care, or they're going to hate it. And it's just like, that's kind of just how life works, especially when you're creating something that's artistic and opinion based. So started writing more this last year. And I got back into just screenplays. That's what I did my concentration in college, was just screenwriting. And so kind of got back on board with just writing songs, writing films. And I was auditioning for musical theater like a crazy person. I was going every day, at least one audition. Some days we'd trying to go to 4 because my boyfriend's also an actor. So we were just like running all over Manhattan, like jumping into dance rooms and then doing our 32 bar cuts. And then like, it was absurd. So it was great fun, but that has paused. So we're doing some submission videos for whatever Actors Access and online has to offer. Good. And and then modeling, I just was like, oh, I'm short. But then a couple years ago, I was like, don't care, still like doing it anyway. So I've just been working on it and getting better at knowing my expressions, my poses, working with a bunch of different photographers.
And so great.
So there you go.
I love that story. And I love that you're getting out there in things that it sounds like you're a little uncomfortable, but you're doing it anyway. And that's such a good lesson for everyone, whether it's entertainment related or something else that they want to pursue. And now is a great time to do that when we're maybe at home more, if you don't have an essential job or you're out there. So let's talk about you, Jack, because I know you have a history of improv. You were in, oh, what was it? Improv sports or improv something. And then you were on a show, all that. And now you have your own YouTube channel. And you just, wow, funny guy. I know. I love videos on YouTube. So,
oh, yeah, cool. Chris and Jack on YouTube.
That just hit 100,000 subscribers recently. Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congrats. That's exciting.
Yeah, we don't make a ton of videos. We do we were one a month for a while, and now we've slowed down to really give them all their time. So we're releasing once every 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So it's tough to really build YouTube. The model on YouTube is crank and crank and crank. And we're nope, we're going to take our time, and they're each going to be perfect little babies that we're going to work so hard on.
Well, I was going to say,
but I'm proud. I think there's
value is really high. So it's hard to crank it out when you've got a high production value.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think if people check it out, you'll hopefully see where that time goes and see a quality. But so doing that, and that he's a buddy of mine who we were doing improv together in college at UCLA. So we've been doing comedy stuff in one way or another together for almost as long as Avatar, for close to 15 years. Cause I was a freshman in college when Avatar came out. So yeah, I think it tracks. There you go. So yeah, that's a big thing, a big focus. And he and I, also, so we create sketch content for the channel, and then we're also writers, and so we've been writing on some Funny or Die stuff and various other. We wrote on a show for Echo, which is a choose your own adventure platform. So check all of that stuff out. But yeah, that's been sort of the writing and sketch side, and then I'm still doing other VO stuff. Check out The Dragon Prince.
The Dragon Prince, yes, that great show.
Yeah, which we just got picked up for 4 more seasons. So we're gonna.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
And is that what show caused you to set up your home studio?
It's not, actually. That's for another thing that I cannot yet speak about.
Okay.
Dragon Prince, we haven't started recording anything yet for the season 4 through 7. It just got picked up. They're writing it now. I've started hearing some stuff. I've started getting little story hints of where we're going. I mean, obviously, even already when they were writing seasons 1 through 3, they had some big ideas for long-term stuff. So I had heard hints, and now I'm hearing a lot more, and I'm very excited about the next 4 seasons of that show.
Wow.
But yeah, and then just working on another thing that I can't talk about yet, and it's for dumb NDA. It's not even. I'm not trying to hype that up more. I'm just saying
So for people who are watching, you can follow them on social media, and then when Jack and Jessie are able
I'll tell you that
upcoming projects,
there you go.
The first to know. So there it will be.
Excellent.
Yeah. So,
and then we had a baby right at the beginning of this whole pandemic. I got a 4-month and a couple of weeks old baby that we are. That's the big project. She can sit up all on her own, or she can stay sitting up. I don't think she can fully get there.
Okay.
But if you plop her sitting up, she can stay doesn't even need her hands on the floor, which I'm blown away. It feels early, but
those lower abdominals are developing. They're getting in there.
For real. She's getting buff.
Well, let's talk about one more Avatar question before we wrap it up. And This is from Jessica. Do you have a favorite line from your time with the show, from your character? And if you do, and you can say it in character, that would make us all even more happy. What a great way to wrap up the show. I think we need some thinking music.
Yeah. I don't know if at the time I had a favorite. At the time I was very hey, this is fun, this is cool. Getting to do stuff like this and hear what people remember of the character, the line that has popped over time. I think the one I thought about at the time was Boomerang, you do always come back. That to me was the iconic line. The one that I have unexpectedly found that people associate as oh, Sokka, you mean the guy who says this is it's a long one, but I'll just go ahead and drink cactus juice. It'll quench you. Nothing's quenchier. It's the quenchiest. That's, to me, that's the line that has become all right, well, there's Sokka. And it is a very big, fun, ridiculous thing that feels like it embodies it.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. What about you?
Well, it's very like hit or miss because Toph, I mean, Sokka's similar in this regard too, because we both are just different types of humor, but we're comic relief, and I'm just dry and you are slapstick. And so I've got a lot of one-liners, but I think one of my favorite moments that I remember during recording was whenever Suki saves me instead of Sokka, and I just get so excited. I'm like, "Oh, Sokka, you saved me!" Mwah! And I'm just, "Oh, well, you can go ahead and let me drown now." It's just like, it's just stark, like, "Oh wow, we got a crush here," and now with his future probably wife. Good, great. We love that. So that was a funny moment for me because I just wasn't expecting it.
It's so interesting hearing you tell all these stories. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having us.
This has been fun. See you later, everyone.
Bye.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Bye.